Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pages in the Pub. We're going to give people a chance to come on into our Zoom setting, and there's quite a few of you, so it'll be a minute or two before we get started. But welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome, everyone. As people come in, we're going to give people a few more minutes to join us, or a few more seconds to join us. There's a lot of people we're letting in Zoom all at once. So we're just welcome. We're so glad you're here, and we'll get started once we sort of have the room be a little bit more full. Okay, I am going to go ahead and get started. People are still joining us via Zoom. We're letting people in as we speak. So, but I'll get started because we want to be respectful of everyone's time. And we know that Zoom, at least I'll speak personally, I'd rather be in person. So we're being respectful of people's Zoom time as well. But we really appreciate the fact that everyone has joined us for Pages in the Pub. Lucinda and I were trying to figure out earlier how many years we've been doing this, and it feels like 10-ish. Yeah.
I believe so, Lisa. I believe
One
so.
of these years we'll look that up in advance and actually have an answer, because I feel like we do this every time. I want to introduce myself. I am Lisa Christie. I'm one of the two Lisas who co-founded and run the Book Jam. We are an online book review site that started years ago at the suggestion of the Norwich Bookstore owners, not Sam and Emma, but the previous owners. And they are fittingly our independent bookstore partner for this evening. Pages is a brainchild of the Book Jam, and unfortunately my dear friend Lisa Cotto could not be here tonight to participate, but she says she's here in spirit and looks forward to seeing the list. If you have not yet turned, well, we're all good. I'll start with a quick description of Pages in the Pub. Many of you have probably done this year after year with us for however many years we've been doing it. But basically, it's an event to have fun, learn about great books, create community, support a charity, in this case, our beloved Norwich Public Library, and generate sales for an amazing local independent bookstore, in this case, our wonderful Norwich Bookstore in Norwich, Vermont. We've done around 20 Pages in the Pub throughout New England, as far away as Rhode Island, Newport, Rhode Island, and up in the Northeast Kingdom, in Burlington, but mostly we tend to do these around the Upper Valley. We've also done around 10 versions of this for schools. We do not call it Pages in the Pub. There is no alcohol involved, don't worry. It's called Book Buzz, but it's the same premise of creating community and sharing good books. As the name implies, Pages in the Pub is usually in a pub. So today we hope that you all have pre-poured your drinks. I have my Prosecco from Dan and Witt's ready to be popped when we're all done. But for the rest of you who are not presenting, we hope that you're enjoying whatever beverage of choice you have in your home. And I just want to say again, thank you for being with us tonight. Before we go to the official part, Lucinda has a few words to say.
Yes, I just want to really echo what Lisa says. Thank you so much for joining us, our third year on Zoom. And I know that when I surveyed people were willing to come to Zoom again, and I'm just so grateful for that. I'm also really grateful for Pages because what it does is that it brings community together to support community. So tonight, you're supporting the library, but I'm hoping you're going to buy a ton of books to support our wonderful bookstore, the Norwich Bookstore. I hope that you will be like thrilled to go into Dan and Witt's, knowing that Dan is a big supporter of Norwich, and this is the 19 days of the Upper Valley. So yay. Raising money is a wonderful thing. And I'm so delighted that Samantha Davison Green is here, because JAM has been such a supporter of the library's events through the years, coming to film events and showing them on JAM, the former CATV. So again, just so grateful to have everyone participate. So thanks.
Okay, some quick logistics, because we know everyone's ready to hear about the books. The chat room is an important part of tonight. It is where we will find Lily, who is a fabulous student home from college, who's helping us out this evening. She will answer technical questions that you have. Hopefully no one has any, but if you do, stick them in the chat room. She will also, and probably most importantly, be linking each book as it is presented to the Norwich Bookstore's online order form and website, so that you can make purchases in real time. So yeah, we're trying to make this as easy as possible. So the chat room is a good place to find information and ask any questions that you have. And we just want to thank Lily in advance for her help there. One of the things, for those of you that haven't done this before, the way this raises money for the library is you all paid a fee to be here, and that goes straight to the library. In addition, the Norwich Bookstore generously donates 20% of the sales from tonight to the Norwich Public Library. So if you are in doubt about whether you would like to purchase a book, if you're on the fence, we encourage you to purchase and get off the fence, because the sales from this event do benefit the library if that helps you buy a few more. And with that, I would like to introduce the presenters, and then we're going to get started with our books. If they would each wave as I say their name, that would be fabulous. Okay, here we go. Emma Nichols, co-owner of the Norwich Bookstore. Hopefully you all have met her in person. Erin Davison, our town's children's librarian. Hopefully you all have met her in person too, although I'm ashamed to admit it. I met her for the first time last week in person, so shame on me, but I used to live in your downstairs basement. So yeah, it's good. Lucinda Walker, our beloved town librarian, who's already spoken. Sam Kaas, the owner of the Norwich Bookstore, the other owner of the Norwich Bookstore. And Samantha Davison Green, the executive director of JAM, which many of you all may still know by its former name, CATV. And they have expanded to be so much more than just the local community action channel. They do podcasting, which the Book Jam participates in, along with Sam and Emma, and owners of Yankee Bookshop and Still North Books. They do podcasting from, I believe, The Haven. There's all sorts of podcasting that they're hosting. They do a lot of teen workshops. They're doing all sorts of things in their beautiful space in White River Junction. So we're really excited to have Samantha here today as well. In addition, they do still film select board meetings and school board meetings and fulfill that important public service as well. Okay, tonight, each of our presenters has 90 seconds, although I'm a little loose with that, to convince you to read each of their selected books. To help us organize our thoughts, the books are grouped into categories such as thrillers, this is the old category, mysteries, because everyone can use a thrill, or books for your favorite high schooler. These categories are loose. Just because we say a book is for your favorite high schooler, please do not think you can't order it for your grandmother too, okay? We are literally just doing it to organize this evening, to help us think about the books, and maybe to help some of you think about someone that you need to get a book for and you're stumped. So that's the purpose of the categories. They are guidelines, they are not rules. I hate rules, so they're definitely guidelines. I will call on each presenter with a book in that category. I will announce the categories in advance. We hopefully won't talk over each other, although I have encouraged the presenters to give thumbs up or to clap if they also have read and recommended that book. Okay, whew, that was a lot, and let's begin. Our first category, and I better do it the right way or else my presenters will never come back. Okay, here we go. Our first category is sci-fi and fantasy, because everyone can use an escape, even a dystopian one. And our presenter in that category this evening is Emma.
Hello. All right. So excited to start us off. Thank you everyone for being here. The book I'm talking about tonight is Spear by Nicholas Griffith. So this is a pretty slim book, so I'm really not going to tell you much about it, except to say that it is a queer recasting of the Arthurian legend. And if you are a fan of King Arthur, I have it on good authority that you will like this book. But if you're more like me, and the most you know about King Arthur comes from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, you'll still enjoy this book. You really don't need to know anything about Arthurian legends. You don't really have to be particularly interested in Arthurian legends. I am not. You just need to like a good fairy tale or folk tale and to be swept away by a good story. Nicholas Griffith is an incredible writer. You may know her book Hild. And this book, I read it in a single sitting. It was beautiful and just, oh, it just took me away.
Okay, she's setting a high bar. That was way under 90 seconds. I'm ready to read it. Although I will say, when you started to say, if the only thing you know about King Arthur is, I was waiting for you to say King Arthur Flower on Route 5. I was like, somehow
That would have been so good.
Yeah, well, now we've said it and we'll hit them up to sponsor us next year. Or we'll be like, we'll work King Arthur into every presentation. Moving on to our next category, we have one person presenting in this. It's books for your favorite high schooler, and our presenter, I think fittingly, is Erin.
Hi, everyone. This is Firekeeper's Daughter. I'm going to give you a full disclosure here. I tried to crowdsource this with some of my librarian friends on various social media platforms, and I was told, oh, I never know how to talk about that book, so good luck with that. So here we go. Just going to do my best. So this is a story that is set in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's referred to as the Sioux, which is Sault Ste. Marie, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it. It's way, way, way up top, just across the border from Canada. This is about a young, there it is. This is about a young girl who just took a year off she graduated from high school. She was on her way to the University of Michigan to study medicine. And she had to take a year off. She is trapped between two worlds. She is from upper middle class white family from Canada, French Canadian woman is her mom, and her dad is from the Ojibwe tribe. So it's really a lot about identity in this book, a lot about her trying to fit in to both of these worlds. She is decided to stay at home. She's got her best friend Lily. She's thinking everything's going to be fine. She's got a new love interest, and after she is little spoiler maybe, she witnesses a horrific murder and she is brought into this world that she never knew. I am not a mystery reader, typically. This is a mystery. I am a character-driven novel person. This is a character-driven novel that is also a mystery. This is great for mystery readers. It's great for people who are interested in tribal politics, which I didn't know I was, but now I am. And I loved how much it was a hold your breath until the end. Highly recommended, not just for teens, but also for adults.
Thank you so much, Erin. That was amazing. And that's her first one. I'm really impressed. Yay. I also, for those of you not familiar with Michigan, I was doing the Glove and the Upper Peninsula, and it's up here. So this is the Glove of Michigan, and it takes place there. And the only reason I know that is because my grandparents are from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I read this book and loved it as well, and loved the Native American take on it. Moving right along, our next category is nonfiction or reference books for sitting by the wood stove. So even though it feels like we haven't quite hit winter, it is hopefully coming. So these books should help us with that. And why don't we start with Samantha for this one?
Hi, I'm sort of taken aback by the category because I don't know if I would put this like as the book that's next to your wood stove, but why not? Because that's where we read in the winter, where we live. But the book that I am recommending is called From Here to Equality. This is a little bit of a tonal shift from the last two books you heard. The Case for Reparations for Black Americans in the 21st Century by William Darity and Kirsten Mullen. And the first thing I just need to say to everybody here is that I do not deserve to be in the company of presenters here tonight at all. I used to be a reader. I loved reading and studied literature in college and all that, but my life doesn't leave me alone with a book much anymore. But having said that, for something that's as dense as this, it really grabbed me. And I was referred to it through a podcast that I found on Vox, a series addressing the case for reparations from multiple vantage points. And I found these two writers to be really compelling. It's a husband and wife team. He's a history and policy and economics professor at Duke. And I have the real Norwich Bookstore cat doing antics behind me. I think I see him. And his wife, Kirsten Mullins, who's a folklorist and writer. And they sort of combine their superpowers of history and folklore and storytelling to tell a pretty devastating, overwhelming history that I think all of us will find shocking, just the gaps in the version of American history that most of us were educated by. And like many of us, I feel an urgency to sustain the energy and attention and pressure that came with the activation during COVID with the murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, to really lean hard into what will achieve real and lasting systemic change. And it starts with, I think, becoming really motivated to learn the history that was omitted from the record. And it's not an easy read, I will say. There were times when I was physically ill from just becoming aware, and I thought I was, and I lived in Mississippi for many years and taught in the public schools there, and I've made films in the South. So I considered myself sort of on the side of more informed, but this one blew my mind and heart open, and I couldn't put it down. And so I hope I might convince some of you to do the hard work. It's well worth it.
Wow, thank you, Samantha. I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm ready to do some hard work, even today, which was a rough day. So next in this category, we hear from Sam.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. My first book tonight is Africa is Not a Country by Deepo Faloyan. I read a lot of history. Those of you who spend time with me at the shop know that. This is the most consequential work of history I've read in 2020. It's one of my favorite books of 2020 thus far, and there's not too much time left in the year, so it'll be tough to top this. I call this an essential primer on history and culture. Why? Because none of us, or at least most of us, don't know enough about African history and culture. Deepo Faloyan is a journalist. He's young. He called this book a grab bag of different vibes that he put together. It is no longer a loose collection as he pitched it originally. It is now a tight, taut collection. Think Anthony Bourdain meets Bill Bryson on a tour, a grand tour of Africa. If you have a history buff in your life, a culture fanatic, somebody who needs to catch up on the history of the many diverse nations that make up Africa, this is the book that you need to get them this holiday season. I loved it. Did I mention it's funny? It's really, really funny. Again, Africa is Not a Country by Deepo Faloyan, the essential history, I think, for this holiday season.
Great, thanks, Sam. I think the title implies that it's funny because I love the title. Like there's something about that title that makes you want to dive right in. I also am realizing that you must have had a really long day because you referred to this year as 2020. So it implies that you're still stuck in the pandemic. And so I think I'm going to send my Prosecco to you wherever you are. I just love that. I was like, huh. And I had to sit there and think, like, what year are we actually in? Which I think shows where we all are at this point in our pandemic and post-pandemic life. Sorry. So our next category allows us to hear from Lucinda finally, and that is adult fiction for everyone who craves an engrossing novel. And we're going to start with Lucinda just because we haven't heard from her yet. And then Emma gets to talk about 2 books.
Okay, so my pick for this, oh God, I've blurred my background. It's called True Biz. And troop is an exclamation. Thank you, Em. I saw that thumbs up. Is an exclamation in American Sign Language for real talk. And this novel is real talk about deaf culture in the 21st century. It takes place on the grounds of a residential boarding school for kids who are deaf. It follows three people. February Waters, who's the administrator of the school. She's hearing, but was raised by a deaf mother. She has just found out that the school possibly will be closed at the end of the school year, and this sends her into a tailspin because she is, of course, concerned about the students that she cares for. We meet Charlie, who is a teenage girl. She is a transfer student raised by hearing parents who want to fix her. They give her cochlear implants as a child and really refrained from allowing her to learn American Sign Language. And so here she is, a teen in the middle of teen years, and she has found herself in a community that she can't really communicate that well in. And then finally, Austin. Austin is deaf. He's part of a family that has been generationally deaf, and in fact doesn't see deafness as a deficit. I don't mean to make that's not a pun, but rather as like having brown eyes. It's just who you are. This book, I've read it twice. It's well written. It's a deep dive, as I say, into deaf culture in the 21st century. One thing I truly love about it is between the chapters, there are these interstitial pages, which are based upon a course that February is teaching the students about deaf culture and the history of deaf culture in America. So I came to work going on and on about the difference between American Sign Language and Black American Sign Language and where that came from. No surprise, white supremacy. This book has everything. There is young love. There is family discord. I love family discord. There's also sort of political awakening, a titch of anarchy, and you really care about these people. And you walk away with having learned something and spent time in someone else's world, which is the joy of reading novels. Great for anyone who's looking for a good read. I cannot say enough good things about True Biz. Sarah Novick.
Wow. Okay, Emma, you're two, and it sounds like you also second Lucinda. So this is a good category.
Second and third. We get asked a lot at the bookstore to give people books, and we're given no more information about what they like to read. And I would definitely hand anyone True Biz in that category. It was such a good book. My next book is Get a Life, Chloe Brown.
Also a good book.
Also a good book. So this is a romance novel. It is one of the best romances I read all year. And I read a lot of romances this year, like a lot of romances. So this is about Chloe Brown, who after a near-death experience decides that she needs to get a life. She has a goal, she has a plan, she has a list, and she has no idea what she's doing. In comes Red Morgan, her building super. He is hot, he is handy, he owns a motorcycle. He doesn't much like Chloe and she doesn't much like him, so he is the perfect person to teach her how to get a life. This book is funny, it is sweet, it is steamy. It is the first in a 3-book series. The other 2 books follow Chloe's sisters. They're all delightful. I just wanted to hang out with the Brown sisters forever. I will probably be reading this again very soon. I don't know, how was I doing on time? Do I get more time to talk about my next book? Should I just go right in?
Go right in. You've got an extra 10 seconds if you want to.
Now for something totally different. So this book is The Corner That Held Them by Sylvia Townsend Warner. You might not think that you want to read a 400-page novel about a medieval nunnery, but I bet you also don't think that such a novel begins with an adulterous encounter that quickly turns bloody. But it does, and you do want to read it. This book is one of my favorite books. I read it, I think, 2 years ago, and I still think about it. It is a book where nothing much happens. It's pretty much plotless. It follows a bunch of nuns who are political and petty and very lacking in piety. It is really funny. It is by an author who wrote a book called Lolly Willows, which is about a spinster who kind of abandons her family and moves to the woods to become a witch. And so I knew that I would like this book because I loved that book. Sylvia Townsend Warner is a genius. This will make you want to read all of the nun novels like me. Didn't care about nuns before picking this up. Will read any book that features a nun now.
Okay, I really hope my friend Becca Warren is in the participants somewhere, because when I lived in Spain 7 years ago, I was haunted by nuns. Like every time I turned around, I saw nuns, and for some reason, I took pictures of them and sent them to Becca, and it became this ongoing thing that like every day I would see a group of nuns and send them pictures. So apparently I need to read these books or give these books to Becca. Hi, Becca, how are you? Next, we have poetry, because everyone can use more in their life, and Samantha has a selection for us in this category.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that everybody who's here already knows about Ruth Stone, if not through her own work, through the documentary film that our beloved Nora Jacobson made that premiered just in 2021, so during COVID. Nora's film is called The Vast Library of the Female Mind, and it is a beautiful, beautiful rendering of Ruth Stone in her own words through her family films that were captured over her lifetime, largely by her family members. So I came to Ruth Stone from that perspective, and I met Emma for the first time when the Norwich Bookstore brought these books to that screening at the Opera House. But full disclosure, I'm just really discovering poetry at this stage of my life, but I've always been terribly intimidated by it. My father's a poet, and I think when I was teaching English in my 20s in Mississippi, I was always afraid of it because I felt like I wasn't sure I was getting it right. And I had that kind of, everybody else is in the know and I'm not sure. And even though I was an English major, I always felt fraudulent when it came to poetry. But what I just fell in love with Ruth Stone's voice. I can't separate just the voice I experienced when I'm reading the poems from the one that came into my mind from hearing her actually read her own work on film. But her world is so raw, so real. She just brings the experience of being in a woman's body, of being a mother, of being a lover, of being a grieving widow. She has an ability to take these mundane details of life that I experience often, like having a plumber come to fix your toilet, and she turns that into a poem. And her work reminds me a bit of Sally Mann's early visual work, in that sort of attentive artist's eye to the experience of motherhood, of sex, of nature, of the acceptance of our animal existence. I think I'm honored that she chose Vermont to be her home, because her home is now a lasting pilgrimage site to poets, to women poets. And this one stays on my bedstand. And even when I read poems that I've already read of hers, like every time I encounter them, it's a new experience. So highly recommended if you missed it the last time it was recommended.
Actually don't know if anyone has recommended it. Love that. Thank you so much, Samantha. Our next category, and we have one in this category, is coffee table books or literary gifts that fit everyone on your gift list. This is a very lofty category, and I am impressed that Sam decided to tackle it. So go, Sam.
Oh, well, someone created the perfect book for this category. Someone, Susan Barba, beloved regional poet with a local connection, and Leanne Shapton, incredible illustrator. The book is American Wildflowers. Beautiful, this book, in every possible way. American Wildflowers, a literary field guide. This is a collection of American arts and letters, poems, prose, essays, personal correspondences, sometimes from a diverse range of voices, ranging across 3 or 4 centuries back to the early 1700s. up to the present day, and featuring just an incredible group of writers, all paired with gorgeous illustrations of Native American wildflowers that you can find, some of them here in New England, on your walks, on your hikes. Leanne Shapton is an incredible illustrator who's known for this really beautiful kind of watercolor style. She's illustrated a lot of books and book covers. Susan Barba, who edited the collection, incredible poet in her own right. I would recommend this to the botanist, the gardener, the dreamer in your life. And right now we have signed copies while supplies last. This belongs on a coffee table. This belongs on a nightstand. It belongs wherever you like to peruse something beautiful. Again, American Wildflowers, a literary field guide.
Thank you, Sam. And I can say, as someone who has held that book, it is gorgeous. It's just beautiful, even if you just want to look through it. Our next category, we have two people, and we're going to let Sam go again. The category is biography and memoir. When living vicariously through other people's memories and lives helps.
All right, time for another one of my favorite books of 2022, the year we're actually living in, Riverman by Ben McGrath. This is a book largely about a guy who checked out of society and spent a couple of decades traveling America's public waterways in a canoe. His name was Dick Conant, and Ben McGrath got a chance to interview him for the New Yorker a few years back when he passed through Ben's hometown. From the very beginning of this story that the reason Ben McGrath chose to write the book was because Dick Conant had disappeared. His journey had ended. But this book still filled me with hope that freedom, real freedom, can be had in our connected, oversaturated day and age, that real wild places still exist, and that you can get to them if you have the willingness and have the imagination. Again, this is a great book for the dreamer in your life. It's a great book for the adventure seeker. It is a great book for the person who kind of dreams of leaving the trappings of society behind. It is a beautiful book. Dick Conant, you'll fall in love with this singular, incredibly smart, very eccentric character and his journey. And he really did go everywhere. Anywhere you can imagine going, he managed to get there. The book is Riverman by Ben McGrath.
Thank you, Sam. And in a sort of Sam, Samantha sandwich, Samantha has a book in this category as well.
Okay, so this is another book that I sort of assume people might have encountered or read already, but I decided to put it forward because I just found it and my light is not making it easy to see. This is The Goddess Pose, The Audacious Life of Indra Devi, written by Michelle Goldberg, and it came out in the year 2015, so it's not a new book. But I'm a fan of Michelle Goldberg's writing in the New York Times, and I, like 36 million other Americans and growing, I practice yoga. So when this book came out, I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And I meant to read it, but 3 children and a film production, et cetera, got in the way. But then the pandemic happened, and my particular coping strategy was to dive into getting Kripalu certified as a yoga teacher online. And through that, I found my way back to this book and found the time to read it. And I just have to say, like, wow, this book starts in 1899 in Latvia with the birth of Eugenia Vasilievna, who ended her life at age 102 as Indra Devi, which was just like, as one of the many hooks, the stage name that she used during her career as a Bollywood actress in the silent movie era in India. So connect those dots. You've got a kind of Dr. Zhivago meets the English Patient meets the Bhagavad Gita, with appearances by Krishnamurti and Noriega in the same woman's life story. So it's like you can't make this stuff up. She ended up you know, it's not too much of a spoiler, bringing yoga to Los Angeles in the 1950s, where American women took it up as something that would improve their figures. And, you know, all these years later, we've got a lot of American women and men and other people doing yoga. Many people deserve credit for this practice coming to the United States and all around the world. But she deserves a huge amount of credit for the form that many of us experience today. It's a terrifically fun adventure story. It's history and biography. But I read it on the beach, like I would normally pick up, you know, a novel. I think it's a must-read book for anyone who's ever found themselves in down dog and wondered, how did I get here?
Okay, that last line is that's perfect. I feel like that should be the tagline on every shelf talker for this book. And somehow I missed this in the raising of my only 2 kids. So I'm glad that you brought it to my attention. Apparently I wasn't paying attention in 2015. So I should have been doing a little more yoga in order to pay attention. I also, when we talk about joking about the Emma, Sam, Samantha sandwich that was happening there, I want to do a little pitch for Shelf Help. For those of you, I noticed someone made a comment that they really liked Emma's reviews. If you want more of Emma and you want more of Sam and you want more of Allie from Still North and Carrie from the Yankee Bookshop, Shelf Help, which you can find on the JAM website, is the place to go. We answer questions from listeners, which are quite fascinating sometimes, and they always lead to interesting discussions and things that I, for one, have never heard of, because I don't get to hang out with 30-somethings very often. And so I feel very privileged that I get to do this while I am hosting Shelf Help. So there's a quick plug for JAM and their podcasting, and in particular for our local independent booksellers who are giving their time to answer questions from the audience all over the country so far. We haven't had an international question yet. That's our goal. Anyway, the next category is we get back to have Lucinda again, and it's mysteries, because everyone can use a thrill. So we have 2 in this category, Lucinda followed by Sam again.
Okay, so my choice for this is Shudder by Ramona Emerson. I first heard this book while I was driving to work. I was listening to Fresh Air and I didn't catch the beginning, but all I heard was the term forensic photographer, and I was very interested. Ramona Emerson, this is her debut novel. She is a member of the Navajo Nation. She herself was a forensic photographer, and her character, Rita Totacone, works for the Albuquerque Police Department as a forensic photographer. She's really good at her job. Why is she really good at her job? Because she takes very detailed photographs and she sees ghosts. Now, and she sees ghosts makes you go, no, not for me. Hear me out. She sees ghosts at the crime scenes, at the accident scenes, but these ghosts, some are kind of cool and some are really naggy. And the ones who are naggy are the ones who want justice. And Rita is going to be that person who will seek justice for these people who died way before their time and not by their own hand. The beginning of the book opens with Rita photographing a scene of what appears to be a death by suicide at a highway overpass. I'm not going to lie, the first 3 pages are a little intense. You know that Ramona Emerson has had experience photographing crime scenes and accident scenes, so it can get a little gross, but hang in there because you're in for the ride of your life. Rita and the ghost, who has vowed to make her life a living hell unless she finds justice, finds herself having to investigate whatever this is. Was it a suicide? Was it a crime of passion? Does it have to do with a cartel? Who's to say? Just follow along. Because Rita sees ghosts, this is sort of the subplot. She's really not welcomed amongst her people at the reservation. In the Navajo culture, ghosts are persona non grata. Her grandmother had taken her multiple times to see a medicine man to try to cure her of this. I really saw the ghosts, quite frankly, as a sort of physical manifestation of the trauma that I think that a forensic photographer probably has, having to photograph some of these scenes. I loved how strong and how direct Rita was. I loved that she just pressed on, even when sitting in a emergency room, being surrounded by hosts of emergency rooms, how she could put that aside, put her head down, and find justice. I cannot wait to see what Ramona Emerson puts out next. This is a terrific thrill ride. Shudder.
Thank you, Lucinda. And now Sam.
All right. If you're looking for somebody on your list who needs a mystery, but not too dark a mystery, but also not a cozy, little bit of romantic tension, but not all about romance, kind of funny, really snappy, super smart, fast-paced, something that's going to leave you satisfied, but also wanting a little bit more. The mystery for you is The Verifiers by Jane Peck. This is a true, Lucinda knows, this is a true old school sleuth novel for the internet age. Claudia Lynn is a recent college graduate. She's working her dream job at a sort of secretive startup that searches out people's dating profiles and sees if they're really what they claim to be on Tinder. A client comes in. She's got a kind of a strange story, and then she disappears. Claudia probably should leave well enough alone, but of course she can't do that. And she gets into a conspiracy that gets more complicated the deeper she digs. I'm a big fan of classic mysteries. I am definitely a Raymond Chandler fanatic, and I was flipping through Lady in the Lake this weekend and couldn't help but think that Claudia Lynn really is Philip Marlowe for a new generation. She's smart, she's quick-witted, she's extremely tenacious, she's willing to take a sucker punch, both figurative and literal. This book is just wildly fun. Again, it's The Verifiers by Jane Peck, and it's in paperback. It makes a great gift. I loved this book.
I did too.
Wow. Thank you guys. I love the fact that one of them is grisly and the other one is kind of a combination of everything, like, you know, a little bit of grizzle, but not too much. And Lucinda, my cousin is becoming a forensic scientist. So I will tell her dad what to get her for Christmas. This is perfect. It's all good. For those of you that are out there and you are stumped for what to get the young people in your life, we have not forgotten them. We just front loaded with books for older people. And we are now going to get to books for younger readers. And that is our first category in this area. We have books for young readers, sort of think ages 8 to 12. Again, guideline, not a rule. For great read alouds, for snuggling, or for quiet contemplation. And once again, sorry. I just combined two categories. So we're going to start over again. Books for young readers, think ages 8 to 12. And these are for your favorite reader who is in elementary school. Give you a little preview of the next category. And in this, we have both Erin and Samantha. And since Erin hasn't spoken in a while, let's have her go first. So books for young readers in elementary school.
So the biggest thing that I get asked is why I don't have more new graphic novels on the shelf. All I can buy is graphic novels. Graphic novels are big everywhere. So this happens to be one of my favorites. It's called Measuring Up by Lily Lamont. I'm also a big sucker. I love food. I love cooking. I'm a big Top Chef fan. I love kids who cook. This is the book. This is a story about Cece, who is 12. She's an immigrant. She just moved from Taiwan to Seattle. Big move for her. And the hardest thing about it, I mean, aside from having to assimilate to an entirely new culture, is leaving her grandmother behind. Her grandmother is her best friend. She has memories of going Saturday mornings to the market with her grandmother. They make dumplings together. Who doesn't love dumplings? And she's had to leave her behind. So when she gets to see, she keeps asking her grandmother, like, come visit, it's very expensive. She wants her grandmother to come for her grandmother's 70th birthday. She doesn't have any money. She's 12. You know, her parents are working all the time. She's lonely. She starts making friends. And one day she and her friends are walking past the cooking store downtown. They are having a cooking competition for kids. Winner wins $1,000. And she is like, I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So she kind of does. And she meets more people. She cooks things that are outside of her wheelhouse. She's very kind of nervous about cooking Taiwanese food because she's made fun of at school, of course. This is a great book. And I'm going to say this. I know this is for elementary school kids. It's not. It's for everybody. This is an excellent multi-generational book club for a family. I would give it to a grandmother and a parent and kids and grandkids and aunts and uncles. And then think about maybe cooking a meal together and then talking about it together. The immigration piece is excellent. And the food is great. And oftentimes I find that grownups are a little hesitant about graphic novels. It's not real reading. And I understand the concerns. Don't be concerned. Once you experience a book that gets your kid excited about reading, and I think together having something like that you can share, Measuring Up is the one to do.
Yay, thank you. I feel like Erin just gave every family listening one of their activities for school vacation week. So that's coming up. Read the book, do some cooking, do some sharing. Also sort of felt the need to give a shout out to our neighbors down the road and White River Junction at the Center for Cartoon Studies. Lots of people there will be writing the future graphic novels that Lucinda and Erin and Sam and Emma will be stocking in their respective libraries and stores. So just a huge shout out to James and Michelle and the cast of characters down the road. So we have Samantha up in this category as well.
Okay, so the last book that I'm going to recommend tonight is called Touching, again, the light is a little tricky, Touching Spirit Bear by Ben Michelson. And this book, which came out a good while ago, 2001, came to me through my 12-year-old. And one of the things I've learned raising 3 boys is to, try to listen to the subtext of their questions. When my youngest asked me in the car this fall driving to school one morning if I had ever read a book called Touching Spirit Bear, I said no, and we moved on. And then something in me said, wait, should I? And he said, kind of, playing it down, well, yeah, if you want to. And I thought, okay, there's something there. So I asked him if he would get a copy from his teacher. It was in the 7th grade ELA class. And I took it with me on a retreat without really having any idea what I was getting into. And it was just the perfect book for me to take on a retreat, because this tells the story of Cole, a 15-year-old growing up in Minneapolis, who's a bully, and he goes too far and severely injures a classmate and is brought into the juvenile justice system. And from there, he meets a parole officer who's himself an ex-con, whose background is he's from the Tlingit tribe in the Pacific Northwest, and introduces a possible alternative path for Cole's process going through the juvenile justice system of the Native American circle justice. So it's an introduction to a Native American cultural practice that has deep wisdom to it. It is an introduction for young readers to the idea of restorative justice and the importance of repairing, not only in terms of punishing through the justice system, but actually doing the harder work of trying to make amends and find redemption with the victims, not only for those individuals, but for the whole community. But along the way, it has a kind of call of the wild, just, man against nature. Cole is ultimately sent to an island where he has to learn to survive. He makes a lot of mistakes based out of his rage, and has an encounter with a bear that becomes a catalyst in the end to the repair that he finally is ready for with the victim of his crime. It generated incredibly deep conversations for me with my son. I found that just, I'm not reading a lot of young adult fiction these days, but I found it completely engrossing for me as an adult reader. I wouldn't call it exactly a read aloud book with your family, but like a good one to read with your tween together as they're waking up to the brutality of the world, a lot of which they are being assaulted by information constantly, by media, but this is a story where it's actually getting inside the heart and soul of the bully, and understanding what he experienced that led him to the behavior that he engaged in. And it has beautiful descriptions of nature with a redemptive ending.
Oh, I love that. I mean, and if you can judge a book by its cover, I think that's my favorite cover of the evening. There's something about that that's just, it makes me want to see what's inside of that book. I also want to point out, we have a lot of books that we've recommended so far dealing with Native American culture or by Native American authors. And I find that fascinating. I don't think that has happened before, but they've been sprinkled throughout. So thank you all for highlighting authors who don't always get the attention that they deserve. So I appreciate that. I want to say, I noticed Lily in the chat room said something about stressed about shopping, order online. And I wanted to kind of also talk a little bit about how this works. Anything you order tonight, the Norwich Bookstore, it goes directly to their online order form. They magically get it ordered. They magically make it appear in the store. They will give you a call or an email or however you, or a text, I think however you prefer to be contacted. I don't know exactly how they contact you, but I'm sure they have a system. And then you just swing by and pick it up. So it is super simple, super easy. You can shop tonight from your chair or wherever you're standing. And then they will let you know when everything comes and you will have it. And we tried really hard. One of the things we do in Pages in the Pub is to make sure that we recommend books that the bookstore can actually get. So theoretically, everything will arrive within a week to 10 days, possibly sooner. So there we go. There's a question about gift wrapping. I'm going to let Emma and Sam field that, and we are going to move on to the next category, which is picture books for kids. Kind of think under 8, but also think about the adults who love those kids who are under 8 for great read alouds, snuggling, or quiet contemplation. And we have Erin in this again.
Okay, so once again, I picked a picture book that I'm like, it's not just for kids. This isn't just for kids. What are you talking about, kids? This is called After the Fall, How Humpty Dumpty Got Back Up Again. So, you know the story, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, all the king's horses, all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. But what if they did? But what if they did? What if they did? And they put Humpty, there's like band-aids and he's all like bandaged up, except there's something that broke inside of him. And now he has to face some fears. Humpty Dumpty was a big avid bird watcher. That's why he was up on the wall in the first place, was to check out the birds. And when he becomes afraid of heights, it prevents him from enjoying one of his all-time favorite things in the world. So he tries a whole bunch of different ways of dealing with it. He tries lots of things. One of my favorite things about this book is that there are some great visual gags in it that only grown-ups get. I have tried to point it out to the kids and they're like, it's not that funny. And I'm like, adults don't think it's funny. So there's some really great, beautiful, detailed illustrations. Another reason why I love it so much. I will also never forget the first time I read this book out loud to a group of kids, and they audibly gasped at the last page. So it is one of those books where I've had to be like, if you've read this before, don't give it away. And inevitably a child does. It's fine. But that gasp is something. I've read thousands of picture books out loud to groups of children before, and I will never forget it. I will never forget that moment where they just went, oh, I never thought about it that way before. Again, I'm a big proponent of picture books being for all ages. I think that this is one for anybody who is afraid, or maybe just afraid to take the next leap. I know kids right now are having a really hard time. A lot of kids are having a hard time. And this is a great book that can show them the power of facing some fear and getting up and seeing what happens if you climb back up that wall one more time.
I know of an adult who needs that, so that I'll put that on my list. And you basically had me at Humpty Dumpty as a bird watcher, so that was really, I love that. We move into books for your favorite tween, and Emma has a selection for us there.
I do. So this book that I'm talking about is one of my favorite books of this year. If you attended Pages in the Pub last year, you may remember I talked about The Troubled Girls of Dragomir Academy. This is kind of like that, except for modern times. So it is about a boy named Mac and his classmates who have chosen to read The Devil's Arithmetic by Jane Yolen for their English class, and they discover that their school copies have words blacked out. So they are incensed by this blatant censorship and become even angrier when they learn that the school doesn't really care. So they begin to protest. I think we all know that book bannings in libraries and schools across the country are a huge issue right now. And this book deals with that directly and frankly. And I think that everyone should read this book, whether you are a middle schooler or a teacher or a parent or just someone who has opinions about what kids should or should not read. Attack of the Black Rectangles is such an important book. It will teach you to question authority and stand up for what you believe in. And it's just beautiful. It's actually based on a true story that A.S. King dealt with. I highly recommend looking it up and also reading The Devil's Arithmetic.
Thank you. There. So those of you that were waiting for the kids' books, we just gave you some really fabulous ones. And I was thinking the Audible Gasp one reminds me of a board book that I always gave our babysitters to read when my kids were little. And I was like, this is the only board book I know that has a plot twist. And the babysitters were like, there is no plot. You cannot have a plot twist in a board book. And I am telling you, My Car by Byron Barton has a plot twist. And you cannot ruin it for anyone else. But if you're looking for another picture/board book that makes you gasp, or at least go, whoa, I had no idea this is what that was actually about, there's another one out there. So After the Fall makes me interested in that. And Attack of the Black Rectangles may be my favorite title for the evening. I think that is just a fabulous title for a book. It makes me want to read it. I don't know why. I picture rectangles falling from the sky. Something along those lines. So thank you for that. We have one more category. We are almost done. We have 3 books in this last category. Before we get there, just wanted to remind people, place your orders if you can tonight. There's a lot of chat in the chat room about getting them wrapped and how you get them picked up. And I'm going to let the chat room deal with that. But just if you're in doubt that any of these books might be something that you or the people you love are interested in, or your local elementary school library might need donated. I don't even know if elementary schools accept donated books. You could ask and maybe donate it to them or something. Please don't hesitate to order this evening because again, this event benefits the Norwich Public Library. That is it before our last category, and then we'll have a couple of thank yous at the end and a couple more instructions. So our final category for the evening is one that people really look forward to, and it is usually something that people buy a lot of. So I'm glad that we have a few in this category. Books for foodies and food aspirationals, cookbooks and beyond. And we have Erin and Lucinda making picks in this category. And we'll start with Erin and then let Lucinda do her final 2 books. And she has something else she wants to say before we finish.
I'm so glad that this is like not just cookbooks, because this is not just a cookbook at all. Black Food. It's edited by Bryant Terry. I actually bought this at the Norwich Bookstore for my birthday this year. Went and bought it like on my birthday at the Norwich Bookstore because I've wanted it so badly. We got it at the library and everyone's like, just look, check it out. And I'm like, no, no, I want to own this book. And I don't say that about a lot of books. I know it's weird for a librarian, but I don't. This is a collection of essays. It's a book of art. It's filled with poetry. There are playlists for each section of music that you can play while you're reading it. It's like a prayer. It defies genre. I really feel like it completely defies genre. It is that there's an introduction. In the introduction, he says, Bryant Terry says, Black food also includes moving visual art, thought-provoking essays, and imaginative poetry that will encourage spiritual and intellectual exploration, renewal, and growth. I got to confess, I haven't read this whole thing because I don't want it to be over. I am picking this up occasionally and I can like taste the books. You can taste the experiences that are being shared with you. I'm sort of randomly opening up to sections and I'm dipping in and I'm reading an essay and then I'm looking through a recipe. You can like hear it being made. You can smell it. It's just so rich and so incredible. I have never experienced a book about food like this before, where it feels so personal, and I feel so fortunate that I get a chance to experience it. Who's this book for? Lovers of cookbooks? Yes. You do not have to be a cook at all in order to read this book. If you are interested in Black culture, if you're interested in the African diaspora, if you are interested in any of those poetry, if you like poetry, this is a book for you. It is just incredible. Also, big bonus, because lots of vegan and vegetarian recipes in this book, if that is something you're interested in. So Black food, highly recommend.
Wow, thank you, Erin. Well done. And now Lucinda has the final two books of the evening.
Okay, so Smitten Kitchen Keepers. I think every few years I come to Pages in the Pub and I talk about Deb Perlman. Deb Perlman, if you are not familiar with her blog, Smitten Kitchen, I want you to immediately, when you're done with this, Google smittenkitchen.com. It will change your life. She cooks out of a cramped Brooklyn apartment. She knows that you've worked hard all day. She knows you have like 10 kids or no kids, but you just don't have a lot of time. You just want to eat decent food. You want someone to give you permission not to do everything. And Deb Perlman is that person. She created this cookbook, The Keepers. There are 100 recipes of things that she has decided are of whatever it is. It's the essential French soup. It is the farro salad. This is the pound cake you'll never need another pound cake. The recipes are clearly written. She tells you what she means when she says salt, because there's 1,000 different types of salt in this world. And she wants to make sure that you know what salt she's talking about. But if you don't have it because you live in Brownsville, Vermont, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And she'll say, it doesn't matter. And I, as a cook who loves a recipe, I have learned to be more free in the kitchen, to taste more, to trust what I am creating. And that's because of Deb Perlman. Any of her books, I'm a completist. This is her third cookbook, any of them. But this, I think, would be great for your kid who's just graduated from college and is moving out on their own, for the people whose house you're going to and you want to bring them a little gift. This would be a great gift. I love Deb Perlman, and you will too. And I made the snacking pumpkin cake yesterday and I didn't have time to frost it. It didn't matter. It tasted delicious, just as Deb Perlman said it would. So Smitten Kitchen all the way. Smitten Kitchen Keepers. Okay, so that's my very enthusiastic cookbook pick. My last book is called Breaking Bread, Essays from New England on Food, Hunger, and Family. I found out about this book, sadly, after the event of the Norwich Bookstore, where the women who put it together came and spoke. I love reading food essays. Upstairs on my essay table, I have the best American essays on food writing that just came out, purchased at the bookstore, circulates at the library. But I was really curious about this book because this is really it's essays made up of authors you've heard of, Richard Russo, Lily King, Roxana Robinson, but lots of people you've never heard of. Local writers from Maine, local New England writers, and they're talking about food and what it means to them. And you know, for some of us, food is just filled with memories of joy, learning to cook with our grandparents, or making our first peanut butter sandwich, or knowing how to put corn syrup or not in a hot fudge sundae sauce. But for then, a lot of people, food is actually a trauma. It's a trigger. It's a place where you might have grown up not having enough food, or food is your enemy. The essays in this book are so heartfelt. Now, granted, I am an easy cry, but often I find myself laughing and then crying with every essay. And I cannot tell you how much this book has meant to me. I've read it now twice, and I was really happy to get it again, to finish like going through it again. One thing I do want to say, I found it really a beautiful book to pick up and just dive into. It's not something you read front to back. It's definitely something you want to own, and you want to just pick it up and just read. Sometimes I like to read in the middle of the night. I think you all know that. I've shared that before. This sometimes is a great book in the middle of the night. Other times I'm like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed by the gratitude of the sharing that the writers have offered us. I love this book, and I really wish I had seen the authors. The other wonderful thing is the proceeds of this book go toward the Blue Angel Project, which is a nonprofit in Maine that feeds people. And as we all know, food insecurity is a problem everywhere, including the Upper Valley. So I just want to do a little plug for the Vermont Food Bank, and also for the Haven, and that'll be my plug. But breaking bread, should we all do more breaking bread together? And that's what I got.
Thank you. And I love the fact that you mentioned food insecurity and the Haven and the Vermont Food Bank, because again, that sort of brings us back to what we said at the beginning. One of the things about Pages in the Pub is we create community, and we mention a lot of people who make our community an amazing place, and communities around the world an amazing place. So I feel like that was just a really fitting end. And I'm now super hungry. So I should probably, I'm looking forward to.
Can we jump in with a quick plug as well for 19 Days of Norwich, which is ongoing right now? Shop your 19 Days of the Upper Valley, actually. It's not just on Main Street there, but it's shop local to support local businesses. And many of us are donating some of our proceeds for the first 19 days of December to the Haven to combat, among other things, food insecurity. And a couple of us are also doing drop-offs for food donations. So you can donate mac and cheese, shelf-stable mac and cheese at the Norwich Bookstore. Lucinda, Erin, what can you donate at the library?
Cereal all day long.
Good. And that, I'm so glad you did that, because one of the people that we want to thank is Dan and Witt's one for the 19 Days of the Upper Valley, which started as the 19 Days of Norwich, probably 19 years ago, not quite, but it feels that way. And also, in particular for this event, they donated a portion of the sales of a Prosecco on their shelves to this event. I have a feeling if you went by and bought the Prosecco tomorrow, he would still donate the proceeds. Hi, Dan, if I get in trouble, let me know. But he has always been such a generous supporter of Pages in the Pub, although he's never been able to attend because he's always working. So we'll get him here. Maybe we'll make him be a presenter someday. Again, a reminder to order books tonight. In the chat room, there was a little bit of chatter about where will these lists be posted. And here's going to be a secret. Here we go. All night, I've been telling you to order early, order often, order tonight. The Norwich Bookstore is incredibly generous, and they will be posting this list on their website, starting probably as soon as this is over, but if not, then by tomorrow. I'm not going to make Sam and Emma work tonight after this if they don't want to, but it will be up by tomorrow. And they have generously said that they will continue to donate a portion of the sales of the 20 books that we mentioned tonight through Sunday. So while I said shop early, shop often, shop tonight, apparently you actually get to shop through Sunday. But don't, like, I kind of feel like do it now. I feel like I should be on like the VPR pledge drive. Do it now so you can relax and, you know, enjoy your Prosecco from Dan and Witt's. The list of recommendation will also be posted on the Book Jam on Monday. So there, those of you that subscribe, you'll get it again. You will not on Monday then be able to have a portion of the sales be donated to the Norwich Public Library, but you can forward it to your friends all across the world that way so that they can see what people in Norwich are talking about. Want to say thank you so much for coming out and Zooming when there are so many other options for how you spend it's a Tuesday. I feel like Sam now I know it's not 2020, but I think it's a Tuesday of ways to spend your Tuesday night. I want to thank the Norwich Bookstore again for the generosity and willingness to experiment with us. You guys you roll with the punches so well, and we really, really, really appreciate that. It's wonderful to have both of you guys here, shepherding in a new way, institution that we all appreciate. So thank you so much. If we don't express that often enough, or if you still feel like the newcomers, don't. Thank you to Lily, who's the big L on your screen, for being in the chat room and for working on her vacation. It was good. I got to see her lovely face in our little tech thing. It was lovely to see you, Lily, and we really appreciate all your help you made today. There we go. You made today possible. I want to again thank the presenters, Erin, Lucinda, Sam, Emma, Samantha. Thank you all. Thank all of your respective organizations. You make this place amazing where we live, and you make reading so much easier. This list will keep us all busy when we hopefully get snow. I'm putting it out there. And thank you all for attending. We really appreciate you being here. Really, really appreciate it. Have a great night. I think that's it. Did I miss anything, anyone?
Thank you to Lisa and the Book Jam.
Yes. Woo!
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Happy holidays. Be safe driving home. That's what we always used to say when we were in person. So be safe going from
Thank
whatever
you, everybody.
to like wherever you're heading to next.
Thanks again, everybody.
everybody.
Next
We're
year in the
done.
pub. Have
Yes,
a great night.
Pub.
next year in the pub. I feel like yeah.